Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shine Spotlight series. Today is going to be a good one. I'm so glad you are tuning in, whether it's going to be live here or whether you're going to watch it at a later time. This is definitely one that you're going to be glad that you spent the time to join us with. So today, our webinar is called Making Beauty from Ashes, How to Make More Out of Times of Less. We're going to do a little deep dive this time, and we're going to get into some soul care, some practical, but we're going to get into some spiritual soul care as well. And the guest speaker that we have with us today is absolutely qualified to do such a thing. We can't wait to hear what he has to say. He's got some theater background. He has a public speaking background, and he absolutely is qualified for the soul care part because of his ministry experience. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over so we can get into the nuts and bolts of this thing today. Bill Johnston, welcome to the Shine Spotlight series, and it's all yours. Take it over.
Oh, thank you so much, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here today. I think that, one of the great joys of doing this and being a part of this great organization with actors like Craig. One of the things I really appreciated about Carrie that just really attracted me to being a part of whatever she's going to be a part of is just, she has this desire to truly strive for excellence in everything and encourage others. And yet she still has this really basic, deep-seated, grounded faith in God that tells her that, there's excellence for the purpose of excellence, but even more than that, because God is deserving of excellence. And so she's just so unashamedly Christian, and I share that with her, but yet also with open arms, wide open to anybody, to just include them into her life. And so just what a great privilege it is to once again be a part of something that she's a part of in this whole organization. Today, I am going to talk about soul care stuff. And and the title of this really is Making Beauty from Ashes. I mean, the world we live in is nuts. Without coronavirus, the world is nuts. And we see this all the time, and it makes us scratch our head and ask some questions and wonder, why are these things going this way? But, sometimes I have to ask the question after I've asked why not? It's almost as if, why me? Well, why not you? It's just the world we live in.
Sure.
But today I want to talk a little bit about these things and what a great example of the virus that is being just, fought as it does laps around the globe, if you will, unprecedented stuff, is that if we're going to survive the storms of life, whatever they are, if they're relationally, if they're physiological, disease, whatever, if they're financial, if they're just things just aren't going your way, your world is being pulled out from underneath you. There's just some foundational stuff that if we can get this part down, then we highly increase our opportunity and our ability to sustain and stand when the storms of life come at us. And so I just, again, unashamedly, this is principles I'm going to share with you today are heavily based on biblical principles. So Christians will easily be able to grab hold of these things. But I think it's basic enough that we'll all kind of grab hold of it. And regardless of your faith, I believe that we'll see that we all can have this apply to all areas of life.
Fantastic.
So let me jump right in.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. So so what's interesting with the entertainment industry, it's very similar in a lot of other ways too, and that is that somewhere, somehow along the way, there was this passion, there was this desire to be or to do something that was placed within your soul, and so it's really, just regardless of what it is, I believe God's given us those different things. We're all different. There's too many times I think people get really frustrated in running in the lane that they're in. And they're so busy looking at the other runners in the race that they're not running their race. And it's like, dude, just stay in your lane, right? Just run your race. And man, all of us together are going to do great. But I believe those things are God-given, those passions and desires to be or to do or accomplish these things. And he does that for his own glory and for advancing his kingdom. But there's almost a naturalness to it that comes. We have to work hard and all this, but there's this natural thing that comes that really motivates us and gets us going. And so in the early times, it's real easy to go. I mean, the passion, the desire that God has placed in your heart is there, and it moves you. But it's like anything else, it has to be trained. It has to be disciplined in order to stay on track. And just like any other skill or talent, whether it's sports or acting or whatever, time, effort, commitment are required if you're going to do it with excellence. It just, there's some great sports legends that, people just think like, the basketball fairy came over bed one night, boing, you are now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's like, it doesn't work that way, man. These people have put countless hours and much time and dedication into all of this stuff. And so if you're going to do it with excellence, it's going to take that time, effort, and commitment.
Yeah.
And so, but even with that, right, there is these times when walking through God's call in your life are going to be easy, joyful, and effortless. It's almost like the honeymoon stage, and it can last a long time. It's just crazy, where it just seems like everything just seems to flow, and it's like, I'm looking at the vision that I'm going, I know where I'm heading, and everything. The problem times like that, though, is something that those times can pull us away. We're really focusing on the whole picture. So we have these great times, but there's also these difficult times when the walk can become, difficult, strenuous, exhausting, but I think whether in the good times or the bad times, the essence of who we are is actually what carries us through. Because we honestly, the people who are just effortlessly succeeding in what they're pursuing, I think they kind of get stuck too. There's times where they'll come to like a dead stop because I don't know if they're just basking in the glow or it's too effortless or whatever.
Sure.
But in the good times, we feel encouraged, we feel empowered, it energizes us, it deepens our commitment. But the hazard of those times is that we start to focus a little more on us and less on. Again, shamelessly Christian here, I do believe these are God imparted to us. And so when we start taking our eyes on us and less on God, I think then those are things that can actually begin to take us away.
Absolutely. It's if I can just interject here.
Yeah.
The last couple minutes I've been listening to you speak. My wife and I, we're always talking with people that, in our circles or even our kids. We have conversations with our kids. Our kids are 13 and 10, and just about identity. Where your identity lies and who you find your identity in, and is foundational. It's the root of so many things. And when you're pursuing something, if you find your identity in something that is the actual thing you're pursuing, you're setting yourself up for trouble, especially when you're talking about when times get tough. Because it's easy in those moments when everything's going great and you find yourself, like you gave the basketball example, right? So everything's going great and you've exceeded at all these high levels as a basketball player. And if your identity is, I'm a basketball player, then when things are going good, that's your identity. And it's easy then, because that's your identity, to take the credit for that and to think it's because of what I'm doing and the focus is on me. That's why your identity can't be wrapped up in that title and who you are or what you're pursuing. And it's ultimately, God gave you that gift, and he gave you those gifts and talents and abilities to do that, because that's what you were created to do. But that can't be, your identity can't be in that title or that specific thing. Right.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And, it's like, it's in some of the things I believe that God calls us to and puts in our life and has us, some things are meant for the rest of our lives. I think the Bible's pretty clear on marriage. Okay. I don't want to open up that topic, but I'm just, till death do us part, basically. But yet there's other things where he'll give us, whether it's a career or a talent or something like that, especially in ministry, I've noticed. And I had a pastor friend tell me one time, he says, ministry is like surfing. Of course, I live in Florida, so it's real easy to, okay, I can identify with Florida. But he says, surfing, man, it's like ministry is like, you feel like there's something that God's called you to do. When you get on your board, you paddle out, you catch that wave, you ride it all the way to the beach. And when it's done, dude, get your board, go back out and catch another wave, right? So, right. But if our identity is in that one wave, then once you hit the beach, it's like, well, now what? It's like, no, dude, this is, keep going. This is not stop. This is get on to the next wave. So anyway, great, good. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. Keep me on track on this. But I think, God's intention for all of this, whether in the good times or the bad times, is that we stay committed to walking the path with him. And I think whether it's through successes that he will draw us to him and remind us of his presence, but it's also in those difficult times that he will call us and he'll draw us to himself. And I think one of the things he is very important, that he very much wants us to make important in our life, is that we walk humbly. We can be proud of the efforts and the things that we do and the successes we have. We can celebrate those. I mean, God and the Bible are clear with celebrate and rejoice with these things. But yet there still has to be this humbleness in our walk. And I think God just encourages us to continue to run that race set before us with perseverance. That yes, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And there's going to be times where you can be like, what in God's name am I running this race for? I am so tired. I mean, I run 5Ks and that's not a really long race. And I'm still like, there comes a point it's like, I could think of like 4,000 other things that I would rather be doing right now than this, So, but as in life, I mean, life, we have to run the race with perseverance. And so, but anyway, the tough times, I don't like them. Nobody likes them at the time. But looking back in my life, I've seen that it's actually in those tough times that there's been these great opportunities to grow closer to God, to trust him more, to press into his presence, to allow him to wrap his arms around me all the time, that he's continuously reminding me of his great love for me. So, but this growing closer to God, it has to be intentional. It has, in order for it to become basically the essence of who you are, because who you are dictates whether or not you'll survive the storms of life, and how you'll influence others too. Listen, if you're a part of this organization, Shine, it is the purpose, it is the goal of Shine by Carrie Lewis to equip you for the information and the industry, and to train you and to hone your craft, and to so that you can reflect the light of Christ others to shine. And when you do that, you're going to attract people. You're going to be an influencer. So whether you think that you are influencing people or not is irrelevant. The reality is you are. And so the question isn't, am I an influencer or not? The question is, how am I going to influence those people that God puts in my life? So, I mean, remember, it's not all about you. It's about God's glory and advancing his kingdom, to be salt and light. But, and if I can, I mean, it's really about, if you'll, allow me, it's about how you will shine. All right. So we're going to talk about just this basic foundational thing, that when the storms of life come, hopefully you can take away some nuggets here that'll help ground you a little bit more, so that you're more of that solid lighthouse, if you will, that when the waves come along. It's basically, we need to deepen our spirit. Influencer, because you are very unique. The personality that God gave you, the calling, he's bringing you into a very unique mission field. There is just not a whole lot of people who are doing this. And so I want to talk to you about what, Josh was saying about that personal soul care when we started out. So I think in order to influence others, we first have to be able to survive the storms of life ourselves. So for you to influence people in the right direction, you got to be in the right direction yourself. And so my concern, I mean, hopefully I'll be able to speak to you on other times in the future as well. But for right now, just that foundational part of like, man, I want your heart to be healthy. And I'm not talking just your physical heart. I'm talking about your spiritual, your emotional heart, your soul to become healthy. And basically we have to have strong, healthy hearts. And so right off the top here, the very first thing, characteristics. I'm going to give you several characteristics of a healthy heart. So hang on, I got to do this.
Good. No, take your time. It's good. Can't wait.
So the characteristics of a healthy heart. First of all, the very first thing is basically a healthy heart is you will see this is a passionate person with a contagious spirit about them. I mean, that's got to resonate with some of the people who are listening here, that you see yourself as a passionate person You know, even people who have said to me, you know, well, I'm not really a highly motivated person. I'm like, yes, you are. I mean, you're highly motivated to do nothing, but you are intentionally doing nothing. I mean, this is not just something that randomly happens. You were with all of your heart and soul striving to do nothing. So, but I'm just saying, there's passionate people, and that's a contagious spirit, though, that will influence other people. But especially people that are just glowing with passion, the ones that are just really out there, people are drawn to passionate people. People are passionate towards something, and when they share that passion, it leads others into that passion as well. So whether it's your skill, your craft in your industry, or your intimate relationship with God, whatever it is that you're passionately pursuing, people will notice that. And the deeper your passion is, then the deeper you'll be able to influence others. This takes commitment to growing deeper in love with God, with all the heart, soul, and mind. Mark 12:30 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. I don't see where there's much confusion there. Yeah. All right, second thing, a strong heart. Character is defined by the way one lives their life and relates to others. Character is defined by the way one lives their life and relates to others. Listen, in order to survive the storms of life, it's during the sunny days that we need to strengthen our character. Yeah, it's definitely during the difficult times we strengthen up. It's like the training in the weight room and all these things are very difficult. But yet in these sunny days and before the storms come is when we do our preparation. Many of you may know that I'm a retired fire chief and a retired emergency manager in the state of Florida. And, we have a hurricane season down here, and the hurricanes only comprise a little bit of our life, but when they do, they consume our life. But when there's not a hurricane coming, you know, the idea is to engage in the preparation part of it. We have to prepare ourselves for when those difficult times come. So I have to ask the question, what do you set your heart on achieving? What are your pursuits? Is it what 1 Timothy 6:11 talks about? Righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, gentleness, not being overbearing, not being quick-tempered, not being overindulgent or violent or seeking dishonest gain. I mean, some good goals, I think, you know, those are kind of, you know, the last ones I just said are goals we hopefully don't have, but some good goals I think we should all have is being hospitable, loving what is good, being self-controlled and disciplined, as in Titus 1. I believe these are the things that will not only sustain us in the difficult storms of life, but can also be used to encourage others. I'm just always amazed at how attractive people are. And there's certainly a physical attractiveness that gets people noticed, but that's kind of just the outer first part. After you're with somebody for a while, you begin to see in their soul the beauty that they have. And you know, I mean, we're all beautiful. God created all of us. But there's just that, if we can get this strong heart down, I think we'd be less apt to compromise on our goals in the tough times when we have practiced walking out our character in the good times. And this applies to whether it's industry-related goals or spiritual goals.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff.
So after a strong heart, I've got, you know, my next point here is to have a shepherd. You're talking about a shepherd. I know, yeah, I've heard the analogy that, you know, sheep are like the dumbest animals on the planet, and so it's not really a compliment when the Bible says we're like sheep. But the reality is that people do need to be shepherded, and if you've been given something of value that can influence other people in a positive way, then it's on you to use that to steer people towards that in a positive direction. A passionate person is always passionate towards people. If all you have is a passion towards your skill or your craft or what it is that you're trying to do in life, and you don't have a passion towards people, then you're never going to be complete. There's going to be an emptiness in what you do. Back, it's like, you know, I had an opportunity to do this with other people and to help them along. Shepherd people, influencing people, people with a shepherd's heart have a desire to shepherd others by leading, guiding, and caring for others, but maybe they just don't know how. But begin to work this out. You know, the thing is that I don't know how to say this, except that it just can't be because you feel like you have to do this. This isn't like, okay, that's a good thing, I want to check the box. Man, this has to become the essence of who you are, that you just naturally gravitate towards, how can I help you with this? You must willingly want to do this. You're not greedy for money, but you're eager to serve. You're not looking down your nose at other people that God's put around your life, but you're being an example to them and you're encouraging them, as 1 Peter 5 tells us. All right, the next point, skillful heart. It takes commitment and dedication in order to develop the skills needed to do effectively anything. We talked about that, whether it's your craft and entertainment or shining your light of God around you, to others around you. It doesn't happen by accident. It takes intentional practice in order for it to become the essence of who you are. And so, one of the stories I like to reflect on this is the story of the goldsmith. Back in the old days, when they would take gold ore and put it in the container there and then heat it up, the idea was that the impurities would rise to the top. Well, there's a lot of application there. I mean, every time I'm under pressure, there's some junk that rises up in me and spews out of my mouth that I wish I hadn't said. It's almost like the Matrix. As soon as I say it, I'm like, no, but the words are gone and they're going to land like arrows, So sometimes the pressure is like that. Sometimes that pressure really helps us out in showing us what's in it. But the story of the goldsmith is that as that dross rises to the top, the impurities, then the goldsmith would skim off the top of that gold that's melted in there. And he would continue to do that until he could see his reflection in the gold. And so I believe, this is one of the things that God wants to do in our life, is that through the times of pressure, and as we practice this, we begin to get a skillful heart, and we're able to become more pure in our responses, so that what is our knee-jerk reaction isn't this blech, spew. It's actually words of, wow, these are really some tough times. Nobody wants to go through a tough time and say, ha, look at this. That's not the joy of the Lord that the Bible talks about. The joy is that I don't like this. I can't stand it. I wish I weren't going through this. This really stinks, whatever. But my foundation is grounded on God. All right. A united heart. Okay. We can't be all over the place. We have to be united in our heart, within ourselves, that we can't be this person this day and this person this day. Yeah. I mean, I've done acting. I understand I have to bring on that character and be that character. But when I'm backstage and I'm talking to other people and I'm interacting with my family and my neighbors, there's this same person that they get all the time. With that being said, we also can't be a lone ranger out there. We have to have others around us. There's no way that God created anybody to be a lone ranger. He very specifically tells us that we need to surround ourselves with other people who will care for us. And care is simply an acronym: challenge, accountability, relationship, and encouragement. So the first thing, man, build relationships. Find some people who are like-minded as you and build a relationship with them. Then, as you become a relationship with them, you'll find that you are able to encourage them and they can encourage you. This encouragement part is so important, but it has to follow the relationship. Then there's the challenging part of saying, man, you're doing great, but have you thought about this? Or, hey, why don't you reach for this? This looks like, I know you well enough through the time of relationship and encouragement that I can challenge you to maybe think about over here doing this, or have you thought about that? And then the last one's accountability, which nobody likes. But I think, all the way down the line, that in that order of relationship first and encouragement, because listen, we've all done things where we've received rewards or accolades or something like that. And if it's just somebody out of the blue that just says, wow, I'm so proud of you, you did a great job. Well, I mean, those are nice words to hear. But if somebody that you're deeply committed to in a relationship comes up and says, man, I'm proud of you. You did so good on that. That's amazing. Well, it just has that much more depth to it. It means so much more. So with the relationship and the encouragement and the times of challenging, I love you, but dude, that was wrong. You don't just stiff arm. You don't like them at the time, but then you're like, you know what? But you're a good friend. You've been with a long time, so I need at least what you said. So we have to be partnered with others that are like-minded and share common goals, and we have to have this specific direction in order to do that. So you need to find people who are on that same path with you. And actually Romans 15:5 talks about that if you want to look that up later. The next one, spirit-led heart. I hope this makes sense to you, but either way, it just has to be said. Okay, and like I said earlier, the reason I'm a part of Shine by Carrie Lewis is because I will gladly follow a person who shows evidence of being spirit-led. Carrie is all of that and more. She's a person. She's like any one of us. I'm sure there's all kinds of mistakes that I haven't seen, but I know they're there because she's a person. She seeks to know God in a deeper way and to follow his direction in her life. I think she's an excellent example of your faith in any situation, place, or industry. Being a spirit-led person is not only critical to surviving your tough times in life, but it also enables you to help those around you. Like we talked before, it's not just about you. It's about God and his glory, but it's about passing that on to others, helping them along. Spirit-led people are committed to the vision of what God's called them to. And all of us, whether you want to call it a ministry or not, it's a ministry. We're called to be committed to the vision of to the ministry he's given us, to Christ himself, to the calling he's given us, to the leading of other people into a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, I think spirit-led people realize that in order to do this, their actions have to be based on commitment and not convenience. That is my absolute favorite buzzword in the last 6 months. What I have determined, and this is like some revelation to me and everybody else probably already knew it, is that ministry is never convenient. There's so many times where it's like somebody needs a visit, or somebody needs a phone call, or somebody needs a house washed or whatever. I don't know. And you're just like, man, I had all these other plans of what I wanted to do for just me. But yet it's in this commitment of having a spirit-led heart to say, it's like Peter when he was fishing and he fished all night on the boat. If you remember the story, that him and his fisherman buddies have been fishing all night, they catch a thing, and then Jesus is on the shore and he yells out, "Hey, did you catch anything?" "No." "Throw your nets on the other side of the boat." Well, yeah, gee, that's brilliant, right? If anybody's ever done you fishing, it doesn't matter what side of the boat it's on, right? But Peter says, he even says, "And I fished all night." But then he says, "But Lord, if you say so, I will." And so I think that's that commitment of having that spirit-led heart, of just saying, you know what, I don't feel it, I don't see it, but you know what, I feel God's leading me to do this. So it's not about convenience, it's about commitment, and I'm going to do it. All right, last one. The one we all hate, a sacrificial heart. This is where we give ourselves away, man. Oh, so hard. We're so busy trying to move forward and to hone our craft and to stay connected to God and all of these things. We're doing all the right things that we're supposed to do, but yet here's the next thing, is this sacrificial heart. So, I can only assume that each person joining us here today wants to be excellent in what they do. Why would you spend your time here if you're not looking for every little nugget you can get to be the very best at what you want to do? And so in your efforts, the hope is that God will raise you up to greater heights physically and spiritually. I mean, you're not doing this because you want to fail. You're not doing this because this is going to be fun to do for a while and I'm going to put it on a shelf. You're doing this because you expect that God is going to equip you to raise you up, and you are going to be what you are desiring to be, that he's put that desire in your heart to do that. And throughout your time with Shine by Carrie Lewis, within this organization, you're going to meet so many people who have been blessed with success. And I think the reason they are part of this amazing organization is because they realize to whom much is given, much is required. It'd be real easy for them just to kick this stuff to the curb. I got my success, I got my talent, I got my career. Why am I doing porn than anybody else, right? But yet they're willing to sacrifice in order to help others out. The higher you go in life, the greater the sacrifice. Please know that. There was a guy speaking at an AMTC conference one time, and he was asked this question on a panel, and he says, and the person asked, says, well, what do you say to people that, why do you want to get in an industry that when you become rich and famous, all you're going to do is just become greedy and selfish and isolate yourself from people? And I thought his response was so fantastic. He says, man, he says, God is going to do what he's going to do. He says, but the richness and the famousness of what you may achieve one day is not going to affect your heart by causing you to change. It's going to magnify what's already in your heart. So if you get rich and famous and you're already a selfish, greedy, stingy, ugly person, right, inside, it's going to magnify that. But if you're already a benevolent, giving, caring, loving person, the rich and famous part is just going to magnify that. But the higher you go in life, the greater the sacrifice. And it's going to require dedicating time, energy, and resources that maybe you don't really think you have, but you need to understand what you have was given to you by God. It takes being intentional others. Just done. I want to share a thought from Oswald Chambers. I use this and would write. I would have to read it like 2-3 times before I got it because it's old English stuff. But it basically, but his quote is: "The spiritual leader will choose the hidden path of sacrificial service and the approval of his Lord, rather than the flamboyant assignment and the adulation of the unspirited crowd." In other words, regardless of how tempting it is to go in a direction that pulls you away from God, we should always say, I'm going to go in any direction. I'll be glad to go down any road, but I ain't going anywhere that Jesus isn't walking down there with me. So your commitment to developing, growing in these areas, I think will not only impact your life, you'll have a meaningful life, a fulfilling life, but I think it'll also be what you'll need to help you be more resilient when the storms of life come crashing in. Cool? All right.
That's good stuff. That there was so much in there, and I was trying. You were on a roll, and I there was so many times that I wanted to either shout you down or just jump in and say a little something, but it was so good. I did not want. I just wanted to hear what was next. I mean, you said a couple really, really important things. I think, we were created to be connected. We were created for connection. We're created to be connected to God, and we're created to be connected to others, right? So you mentioned very early on, you were talking about how you're going to influence people, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, right? So if you don't take the time to work on this soul care that we're talking about and preparing your heart for the things to come, because you're right. I mean, my wife and I, we tell our kids all the time, we'll point it out when we see it, certain sports figures or people that they look up to, and then all of a sudden things don't go so well, and then you sort of get a completely different person. And we point out, that the true character of somebody shows in those moments. It's easy to be a certain way when times are great, but when times are tough, then your heart, what's really in there, like you just said, is what shows. And even in the moments when you get big and that fame, like you said, it's to magnify what's already there. And I think if we have that broader understanding of, the connectiveness we have with people, that we're created for that, and the importance in that, then I think it's easier then to say, you know what, I'm going to take this a little more serious about preparing for what's ahead of me. Let's we have the passion, right? We have the drive, and we want to do all these great things. But if it's just focused on that, and our view isn't a little broader to see a bigger picture on, well, why would God allow me to go far in whatever it is, whether I'm acting, modeling, singing, or whatever? What is the platform I'm giving, and what is the responsibility that comes with that? If there's a responsibility that comes with that, then what do I need to do now to prepare myself so that I can absolutely perform at my best for His glory in those moments, right? So I don't know, that really stood out to me when you talked about that, because everybody has a favorite teacher or a favorite coach or a favorite, somebody in their life that meant something to them, right? That spoke into them somehow, some way. And I think it's beneficial for people to be able to look back on those moments, on those people, and say, well, why is that? Like, what was it that they did for me? Because, sometimes it can seem daunting. Some people might come more natural to somebody like you or myself, or on what that needs to look like and how you build yourself up and prepare yourself for those moments. Some people might think that that's daunting and I don't even know where to begin.
Right.
But if you look at the person that had that positive impact in your life and just say, okay, what was it about them? Why does this person mean something to me? Why are they one of the first people I thank when something good happens? I point back to them, and then start there. Like, that's a good starting point, right?
Yeah,
to say,
absolutely.
find out what that reason is, and just let that be the starting point for your own journey in preparing. I mean, you gave your 7 points. I mean, you were very thorough, I felt. I think even just diving into the scriptures that you mentioned, there's so much there. I mean, you probably could have done 7 sermons on each one of those points. I see. So you have your beautiful daughter Rayna on this as well. Hi, Rayna.
Hi.
I welcome. And I see you nodding when I say a few things about tangents your dad can go on. Bill, I would love to know, since Rayna is on the call, what is she's on here because Rayna, what's your experience in industry? You have a little bit of knowledge and experience in this, aside from your dad being a longtime friend of Shine. What can you tell us? I want to hear from you first. Just tell us a little bit about you, and then I would love to hear Bill's perspective on your journey, because it's going to be different, right? We all have different perspectives, right? He's your father, so from a fatherly point of view, but I would love to hear his point of view after we hear from you.
Of course. Thank you so much for letting me join the panel. I know it was a little unexpected, but here we are. So I am in the industry. I'm currently an actress and a singer. I live in New York City, which is super fun. And my dad and I actually kind of started our more modern day industry journey together. I was doing like high school theater and stuff like that, and dead set that like I wanted to be in the industry. I wanted to be a performer. I knew it was what I wanted to do. It was getting dad on board. That was a little bumpy for a little bit, but then he heard a commercial about AMTC on the radio, and he was like, hey, there's this program, I think we should do it. And I was like, I mean, whatever it takes to get you on board. Sure, let's try it. Why not? And then we both kind of started an AMTC. We met Carrie, and it was just like super awesome. 2 years ago now, that's kind of crazy, but 2 years ago now, I graduated from the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts. I got my degree in film acting, and I've just kind of been working, doing workshops on and off since then. But it's been a very interesting journey, and I like one thing that my dad mentioned, which I have found to be so important, I think, especially as a performer in New York and as a Christian in New York, to bring that up again, but that whole aspect of community and, caring for each other and challenging each other, and like how you were talking about how when, the impurities rise to the top, I think it's also important, while God is skimming that and, you're feeling all this and you're like, I didn't even know that was in there, having a community that can stand around you and say, okay, cool. So we found some new stuff. Let's like lead you to Jesus. Let's take you where you need to go to kind of skim those things into, I found it so helpful to have a community that I'm very blessed by my church family, and having them around me and having them support my dreams, and having, artist friends that are Christian, I think really is so important in this industry, because if you don't, it's so easy to just get lost and to just kind of start drowning in all of the craziness that happens. So I don't know, when you were talking about community, it was definitely very personal to me. And I was just like, yeah, it's so important to have a united friend, to have friends who will carry you to Jesus when you feel like you can't even make it. There's the story about the man, who couldn't walk, and his friends literally lowered him from the roof into the room where Jesus was. And I think having friends like that, when you feel like you can't go anymore and they just say, no, but you know what, that's fine, we'll put you on this mat and we'll carry you ourselves. And then being able to, because of that, reciprocate that and to take your friends there and to say, okay, you know what, that's fine, you can't walk right now, but I'm going to carry you and we're going to get there and it's going to be so much better on the other side.
That's awesome. You're right, it's so important. And I think that's, you know, here at Shine, that's a high priority. We want to be that community. We want to create that community, because you're right, it's so important to the words that you use were absolutely perfect. Sometimes when you feel like you can't walk and you can't get to Jesus yourself, you're going to have somebody that's going to carry you and get you where you need to go, and it's very important. So Bill, she alluded to the fact that you might not have been thrilled in the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about that, just from your perspective.
Dude, she like glazed over that. I mean, like, you want to talk about, I mean, it was like when pigs fly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's cute when they're in middle school, right? Oh, I'm gonna be an actor one day. Okay, yeah, that's nice, honey. You know, that's good. You know, and then it's like in high school, it's like, you know what? I'm thinking about going to this school and that school, and I do a little research I'd never heard of before in my life, and I go, holy mackerel! I mean, I could buy a house for what it costs to get that degree. So I'm like, no, it's not happening. And plus, you know, the industry, you know, as a Christian family, you start looking at some of the junk that you don't really approve of. But that's an industry. But anyway, and it really was. It was one of those things where just wholeheartedly, even to the point where, you know, one of the things about Rayna is her character, that God put it within her, that even as a kindergartner, I used to jokingly say that I don't know if Rayna will go to heaven or hell when she grows up, you know, when she dies. But I know that she's not going to be duped into going there. She's going to go willingly wherever she goes, and she's going to take people with her wherever she goes. And it really was that point, yeah. And so it was at that point, you know, it got towards the later end of her high school years that she said, I am doing this. And it was just, I thought we already talked about this. I thought we already put this to bed. But it just began to kind of gnaw at me in my prayer times that, you know, this is something that really is so heavy laid on her heart that I need to you know, to give something to it, at least in praying over it. And then, and like, you know, she said, we heard about AMTC. I was, you know, at the time I was the fire chief. I was extremely busy in life. The fact that on the radio, one meeting to the next, and by the time I got back to the office, here's the God miracle. I remember those 4 letters in the right order. I mean, I'm telling you, it was just, my life was like, I Googled, looked it up, and sure enough, I thought, you know what? And so I called my wife and I said, Ellen, this sounds crazy, but is it possible that this is truly what God's put on our daughter's heart? And as we continue to pray about that, one of the things that God impressed on me was that there could possibly come a day that God would say to me when I get to heaven, you know, well done, good and faithful servant, you know, you followed me, you obeyed me. But there may be one of those buts in there, like, but I had this amazing plan for your daughter, and I had totally paved the way. I had knocked down every door, every gate. I had cleared this path for her that I wanted her to go down that would bring me glory and advance my kingdom on earth. But there was only one thing on earth that stood in the way of that. And that I can live with it. And so I just had to say, okay, God, all right. So we just kind of encouraged her along and the best we could. It was certainly not, it was, a lot of it was on her. I'm very proud of her for what she's done and the influence that she's had in that industry. And I'm amazed by it. And so it's been a really cool ride. And just to see her here today is just a joy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's actually, I can really relate to actually both your point of view and Rayna's point of view. It's really how I came to know Carrie. My son, my 13-year-old, he's acting and modeling, has an agency that represents him for the last 4 years now. That was a result of Shine. And my wife and I weren't completely thrilled. Part of the reason was, so my wife had no experience in the entertainment industry. I did. So because and that can be both good and bad, right? So I saw firsthand some of the things that are out there, and our oldest, ever since he was very, very, very young, it was pretty known that he was going to do something in entertainment. I mean, it was all over him. And we struggled for a very long time. And we just got to a point where we asked the same question you did. And I think, we didn't want to get in the way of what God created for our son. He created him to be something amazing, and we want him to be amazing at whatever that is. And I'm so thankful that we did it, and we allowed him to go to Shine, and we got to meet everybody that and really created a whole new family. And it's been amazing ever since. And it's been a good community thus far. Yeah. Just to know you're connected. I feel connected with people that I've never, that I've met like once or twice over a weekend when we were at Shine in Atlanta, or just even people I've never met because you've interacted with just through messaging or things like that, or being part of a group on social media. You feel like you're connected. And to Rayna's point, it's so important. And I commend you. Listen, it's not easy as a parent. Rayna, one day you're going to understand. One day you're going to understand how difficult it can be. But I think, you're going to have your own journey that you've walked, and you'll be able to, to speak into your kids because of that journey as well. And I think the experience that you've had with your community and even with the Shine community, you'll be able to point to that as, this is what's important, and this is how you build a strong foundation so that you can, like I said, take advantage of the, not in a negative way, but just, use the platform is a better way to say it, that God has given you through the talents and gifts that he gave you. So, this has been really, really good. I thought of, there's a phrase that, that the world loves to say about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I don't even know why it popped in my head in the middle when you were speaking, Bill. And I thought of that. And of course, then the Kelly Clarkson song popped in my head as soon as that phrase, came in my head. But it made me start to think, and I'd love your take on it. From a biblical perspective, it's easy for the world to say, oh, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it's that whole, like, it gives you thicker skin and makes you tougher but again, that's all about, that's me-centered stuff, right? That puts the onus on you rather than from a biblical perspective. I think God has a lot to say about the exact same thing. I understand the sentiment behind what doesn't kill you make you stronger. Yeah. But I think it's that whole, be careful, because if it's me-centered, you're setting yourself up. So I don't know. If you have anything that comes to mind right now, and I hate to throw you on the spot like that, but from a biblical perspective on like what God would have to say about that very thing. Yes, true statement. But I think it's also that God isn't going to give you something that you can't handle, right? There's a biblical point of view and a God perspective, I think, that can speak into those tough moments. If you can speak on
it. Part. During the time when I was a firefighter, we did extensive training all the time. And, one of the things I can tell you there is without a shadow of a doubt that if a firefighter runs into a building on fire without the protective gear on and with the training of how to use that gear, it is not going to go well. And so, why would you want to learn a lesson like, hey, don't go in there, you'll get burned, when we already know that? Let's go ahead and be fully equipped ahead of time so that when it comes time to go run into the burning house, that we're not going to get hurt. The whole time I was a fire chief, I would have just rather die than have somebody get hurt on my watch as a fire chief, even though I'm not on the scene. The crews are doing their job, they're trained for. But it's just that whole thing about, there's this, have they had the right training? Have they had the equipment? And I think God does that in our own life too. It's like, look, there's going to be some tough stuff you're coming into here, but listen, I've got some equipping for you. Training, the Holy Spirit to wrap around you. If you'll take walking in the good times and in the easier times of walking with me, then it's going to be a piece of cake to walk with me in the tough times as well too.
Right. That's good. Well, I know, you've been around Shine AMTC for a while, and
good stuff.
Are there any stories or anything that you can think of, or particular, without naming names of the specific performers, but of people that you've sort of helped through maybe tough situations, or got to speak into their life about something? Does anything pop into mind over the years of any stories that maybe you could share from from past people? I know there's probably countless people that would actually be the ones to ask, that would probably say, oh my gosh, let me tell you about when Bill said this to me and it spoke to me and helped me through it. Like, see, Rayna, your daughter, she's thinking right now, like, yes, right. So maybe that's not the exact question to ask you, because I know that it's probably not on the forefront of your mind. But here's what I know that this community of people, for those of you that are watching, and if you joined in late, we will be sending this back out. It is recorded, and you will get to hear the whole thing, because there's so much good stuff that Bill shared with us today. But I want everybody to know and understand that the people that are involved and tied to Shine and have been for years, like Bill, they truly care. I mean, they're giving their time now, but it's beyond now. It's beyond this 1 hour webinar. It's beyond one conversation or one past guest speaking event at a Shine conference or something. That there is a community of people, of coaches, of VIPs, of just friends and family, we'll call them family, of the Shine community, that truly care about not only what you're passionate about. Like, we all want to see you become exactly what you were created to be. God gave you these gifts, talents, and abilities for a reason and a purpose. And we are there to support you and give you tools to succeed at that. I can speak into that. There are things that my 13-year-old son gets complimented still on set about, things that he learned going to meet Carrie, and that first initial instruction that he got. He learned so much. It was the first thing he'd ever done in the business. He'd always had the desire. He was 9 years old. It was the first thing he ever did. He still, to this day, it just happened a couple months ago. We were on set, and there were things that he did that I specifically remember him learning from Carrie.
Yeah.
And they compliment him on those things, and they're like, oh, wow, look at you. Like, and that speaks volumes to me. In that moment, I'm a proud dad, right? But I'm also proud of the community, and I'm proud of Shine. I'm proud of Carrie and everybody who's involved. I'm proud of people like you that spend your time to help people, not only in the practical side of gaining tools and knowledge that you can apply to your industry, but also the spiritual side, right? How you carry yourself in those moments. Because you're right, people are attractive for many reasons, and you can attract people positively or negatively. And when you're in those moments and you're applying the practical tools that you learned from your Shine community, but you're also shining from your heart, you are the most attractive person on that set. Right? And you are going to draw people, and people are going to be like, what is it about that kid? Or what is it about that guy? Or what is it about that girl? That young lady is amazing. What is it about her? And that ultimately then becomes an open door, right? It becomes an open door for you to share exactly what it is that makes
I like the way you brought that in too, because it is a mission field wherever we are. Because I used to tell people, like, listen, I mean, I was a fire chief, and I can promise you, when I die, there will be nothing about me being a fire chief on my headstone. I just honestly, I mean, he loved his God, he loved his wife, he loved his kids, something. Me, that's just a means to it. And I used to tell people, it's like, wherever your mission field is where you need to be on mission. For somebody backstage, there's going to be some people that need that word of hope or encouragement or pointed to the love of Christ. For me, when I was a fire chief, I could walk into the city manager's office in City Hall and he would hang up on who he's talking to because I just walked into his door into his office without an appointment. But
wow.
It would take anybody else 2 weeks to even get on his calendar after you've been through a variety of 3 other people to get there, right? So I'm not saying that to blow my own horn here, but I'm just saying is that that's the mission field he gave me. Mm-hmm. It was him. And so through that job, I saw opportunity to shine the light of Christ and see other people come to Christ and encourage them and mentor them along the way. And so in the entertainment industry, we're sending missionaries all across the world from the United States out of and so you need to be equipped in order to maintain your faith and to stay the course. Of course, it's tough stuff. But it's such a, like you said, it's a bright light because for some people, it's maybe the first time they'll ever see somebody shine.
Yeah. Wow. Yep, you're right. Absolutely. Well, I think this was amazing, Bill. I have to thank you so much, and Rayna, thank you for sharing as well. It was great to hear your story, to get a little bit, get to know you a little bit more, and hear what you're up to. But then to also find out, how supportive Dad was from the very beginning, right? I mean,
from the get-go.
Oh, it's great. That's awesome. It's, I think it's important. I think even just hearing stuff like that is important for everybody to hear because, we're all just trying to figure this thing out. And unfortunately there are things that are out there in the world that are not good and that are negative and that can be a negative influence. And, especially as a parent, you have this inclination to want to protect, right? You want to protect your kids. But because of all that darkness that's out there, I think what a better reason to fill those industries with people who do have a little something different to offer.
Yeah.
Right?
And that light.
It's all the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So thank you very much again, Bill. We will have you back for sure.
Hope so.
Rayna, you're welcome to come back as well.
Thank you.
Hear what you're up to. But everybody who is on, we will be sending the link out and it will be available to watch and replay. So you can make sure if you were taking notes now, you can go back and listen in and take even more notes. I know I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm trying to follow along and do everything that I need to do as the host, but I'm writing notes myself and follow along on his notes and jotting stuff down. So it was very good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Look forward to the next time.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Signing off, everybody. We'll see you next time.